everyone. I'm Vera with the BJI, and in this installment of Judges in the Community, I'm joined by Paula Beran of Richmond, Virginia, with me to spread the good of her full-day insolvency career education program, benefiting bright-eyed students and seasoned practitioners alike. Good afternoon.
Good
Before
afternoon.
anything else, I just wanted to thank you so much for being here and providing some insight into how you've personally tapped into the community to inspire and make positive change. It's so important to have that in all realms of the legal world. So before we dive in, I just wanted to ask you to give a few more details about who you are, where you practice, and your personal legal history.
Oh, certainly. Paula Beran. I'm with a small firm in Richmond, Virginia. The firm is Tavener and Barron. It's two women own the firm. It's myself and my law partner, Lynn Tavener. But not only is she my law partner, she over the years has become my closest friend.
Wow.
Um, like I said, we're in Richmond, Virginia. We practice primarily in the state of Virginia. We represent all entities in Chapter 11. We represent trustees in consumer cases. My law partner, Lynn, she's a Chapter 7 trustee, and I am a Subchapter 5 trustee. I graduated many moons ago with a joint degree, MBA, and law degree from Wake Forest, and have been practicing in the insolvency space ever since.
Thank you so much for that. It's so wonderful to
Mhm.
meet you.
Yep.
With that context in mind, could you just dive right in and reveal the greatness of the program you're here to highlight today?
Oh, certainly. It was a wonderful event a little over a week and a half ago. It is the inaugural Howard Dreams.
Mhm.
And Dreams stands for Discovering Restructuring Expertise and Mentorship Symposium. It started off as a DEI initiative of the American College of Bankruptcy and the American Bankruptcy Institute, two organizations in the insolvency space. In connection with that, it was twofold, the purpose behind it. First and foremost, we really wanted to be out there providing information to law students and those who aren't necessarily the ones that we're reaching out to or seeing on a daily basis. Those that are at the historically Black colleges and universities is really where we wanted to get to, and let them know about all the opportunities in the insolvency profession and to welcome them into the insolvency profession and to foster a pipeline of firms available for candidates for employment in that area. And then also, it was kind of a twofold purpose. So we were focusing that on the students, but then we also wanted to foster an open dialogue among insolvency professionals and those in our community on ways for us to better address inclusion and make these opportunities available for all. And
Mhm.
so, with that in mind, we set out to create the inaugural Howard Dreams.
Mhm. So when it really began, was it your brainchild? How did it come to be, and how did you start to get involved with it?
It was the brainchild of myself and my law partner, honestly. Um, take you back several years. Had an incident involving my daughter. She's dating a Black guy. My sister is married to a Black guy. My brother-in-law is Black, and my daughter and her boyfriend. It feels weird because she's an adult, but I to call boyfriend. But her significant other. We're walking to the beach one evening and had a not so pleasant experience
Mm.
with law enforcement, and it really bothered my daughter. And my daughter came back and was talking to me about it, and we were talking with my sister then about it, and my sister just gave my daughter some advice that was a little bit heart-wrenching to me. Was basically, you have to keep your cool because it's not you who could get hurt, it's your significant other. And so while I had always understood that my sister and my brother-in-law had experienced some racial bias and or prejudices, I really never knew the extent. And so when I kind of heard all that, I was like, you know what? Something really has to be done. We all just need to start trying to make a difference because I think if we're out there making a difference, having understanding, awareness, those types of things, maybe in the future we could eliminate things that happened to my daughter and her boyfriend, as well as then others that unfortunately where the situation doesn't end in a positive way.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what made me think, what, I want to start making a difference in my world, in my insolvency space, because other than my kids and my dogs and my law practice, that's me. That's really what I do. So like, where can I make a difference? Yeah, let's do it in the legal profession. And so my law partner had very similar feelings, and so we just became very driven and passionate about it. And it just so happened around the same time we were invited to go speak at a bankruptcy class at Howard Law School. And so we spoke at that class, and after the class, we were just commenting what a great experience it was. I mean, we felt like the students are really engaged, but we took so much away from it. It was like so rewarding for us as well. And so we were talking about what more can we do? What other things we can do? So we started talking with a professor there, and there's just this idea germinated, and we thought about having this symposium where we could do these things. And so we talked with the professor for several months about it. And he got the buy-in from his law school, the admin people there. And then Lynn and I set out to, let's see what if any buy-in we could get from organizations that we were involved with. And it was almost a perfect fit because I'm very involved in the American College's DEI initiatives, and Lynn's very involved in the ABI's DEI initiative. So we were able to tap those two organizations. Those two organizations thought it was a perfect fit, which right in line with their initiatives. And so they became the two main sponsors, those two organizations. And then we set out to like, okay, now we need some buy-in. We need a steering committee, because we didn't want it to be about just Lynn and I. We wanted to, or just about those organizations. We really wanted community buy-in. So we formed a steering committee. That steering committee was 3 judges. That was the first people we tapped. We asked for their assistance because we knew that would be invaluable. And we wanted a judge from each of the jurisdictions in the DMV area. So we got a sitting judge in Maryland, a sitting judge in DC, and a sitting judge in Virginia. And just so happened to be 3 women, which we loved, and 3 women that we respect immensely and knew they would add great value to the program. And that was Judge Harner out of Maryland, Judge Gunn out of DC, and Judge Kindred out of Alexandria, Virginia. So then after that, another thing we recognized and thought would be very important is, this is about the students. We want the students. And so we tapped 4 law students to serve on the steering committee as well, so they could give their input and suggestions and recommendations. And so that was critical. And then over the last probably 5 months, the steering committee, wait a minute, I forgot one other thing. We also then reached out to some relatively recent alum of Howard and asked them to serve on the steering committee as well, so that we could tap in from their expertise and their experiences, being, relatively new. And when I say new, it was anywhere from, I think, 2-year associate all the way up to, I think, a 6-year associate. And so we could tap into what they had experienced, what they had went through, what they thought would be beneficial, and things like that. So that served as our steering committee. And then over the next 4 to 5 months, we just kind of put it all together and put the panels together. And we jokingly said this, but we were serious about it. We're like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. We're reaching for the top. And we went to the best person we could think of to fill a spot in the panel. And when I say we, it's the royal we, it's the whole steering committee. And I don't know if you saw the list of panelists, it was just incredible. It was the best of best in all aspects of the insolvency space. So when we reached for the top, and we hit the top in all aspects.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible to see it all written out like that. And also hearing your story is so powerful. It's amazing how many perspectives you sought to synthesize. I think it's so important to have all those insights. And I'm curious how that process impacted you. You said even just speaking that one time was really rewarding. So I'm wondering how this whole experience changed your outlook on everything.
It was an incredible experience. It truly was. I mean, words can't describe it from my perspective. The panelists, the practitioners and the judges and all of those people, just extraordinary words of wisdom and guidance, and kept it positive and upbeat. But for me, the greater impact was just talking to the students and hearing some of the students and what the students had to say. For example, I mean, I'm not divulging any confidences or anything. This individual stood up and asked this question in the panel, and it was a Black female who said, sometimes I walk in the room and there's no one else that looks like me. What is it I need to know or should do or whatever? And to have her verbalize that in a room full of insolvency professionals, like, just one, I thought it was good for us all to hear it and understand it and appreciate sometimes that emotion, that fear, that feeling when you walk into a room and you don't look like everybody else. As well as then I thought it was so brave and strong and just incredible for her to ask that question. And I thought, you know what? This all good can come of this from both sides of it, from the student, the individual, as well as the others in the room. And so that just really hit me hard. And I thought that this is great. The other thing that kind of hit me hard from the day is, it's these intangibles from my perspective. It's the people. That's what I care about. It's like what's the impact on the people. And so I don't know, just from a little bit of step back, the day was broken into basically three components. One, we had two panels that were really focused on students and student topics and opportunities for the students. And then the second part of the day was a focus where it was really practitioners and students. And then the third part of the day was a networking reception. And so at this networking reception, it gave the practitioners an opportunity to mingle with all the law students. And so when everybody was mingling, I was talking with one individual, and he said something that really hit home to me. He's like, I had always considered going into either personal injury or criminal, because I really thought that's where I would fit in best. I didn't really know if I could fit in other practices. And I just thought, well, of course, anybody can fit into any practice. We need, this is about opportunities. But that was his perspective. And I'm like, you know what? That's sad. And he's probably right from some people, but we're going to change that. We want it to be open to everybody. So he concluded, though, by saying, but now, after this symposium, I'm really going to give bankruptcy a good look, and I want to see what kind of opportunities there are for me. And so to me, at the end of the day, it was like, great. If nothing else, that one person has been impacted. Whether he ultimately goes into bankruptcy, into the insolvency space, who knows? But he felt like he would be welcomed there. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that he is welcomed there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, regardless of trajectories, even just opening that door and showing these students that they're welcome to walk through, it's just so powerful. And I think it just means so much to that community. And I'm sure you're changing lives and careers, no less. And hearing
I can't
about
say it was just me. It was, it's just, and I'm so thankful and grateful to everybody who participated, especially the steering committee as well as the panelists. I hope you publicize them or whatever. I could go through a whole list of 20 some people, as well as then the students who were so receptive to it. The first session, it was just incredible. It was career opportunities, and yes, it was during lunch, so people let's grab a bite and hear about the career opportunities. But it was over 75 people, students, standing room only, to hear about career opportunities in the insolvency space. So we weren't expecting nearly that many students for lunch because it was during a school day, and people had classes and the like, but people packed in. It was great. Things like that. And the panelists were just so good with them explaining all the different opportunities, and hopefully welcoming them into the insolvency space.
Yeah, I know that such an impact like this is something that other people in the legal and judicial community are going to want to tap into themselves potentially. A part of these videos is trying to spread these messages and inspire others to take on similar initiatives. So obviously, when you talk about the steering committee, it seems crucial to really reach out into as many components of the community as you can, get as much insight as possible. But are there any other pieces of advice that you would have for any others looking to craft a similar
I mean,
program?
you hit the nail on the head. It's the buy-in. I call it buy-in. We wanted all aspects, from students to professors to judges to
Mhm.
practitioners to people in the corporate world to people in the government world. We tried to incorporate everybody so that one, the students could see that there are opportunities in all those facets, but also to have buy-in from all of those groups. And we really did receive the buy-in. The other neat thing I think that I loved that we started with the focus of doing it and we kept it is, sometimes you go to CLEs or professional, continuing professional education seminars. And to me, you have, kind of what I call the bobbleheads. It's just, and the moderators are, well, in this instance we had, a current law student as well as a Howard alum, serve as the moderators.
Mhm.
So they were the ones that then could tailor or move the conversations to what they thought was appropriate and what they thought would be impactful, as opposed to, someone like me or someone's been out in the practice for 20, 25 years dictating, what was going to be discussed. And that was very beneficial because it allowed them to, one, participate and really be involved, but two, it also allowed them to help us, the practitioners, appreciate and understand really what the need was or what the focus was or what the concerns were, what the questions were. So having them serve as moderators was just awesome. The other thing I would say is I feel like sometimes in today's world, people get upset with DEI initiatives because people think it's all negative, or, why are you beating us over the head with this? I mean, I get frustrated with people like that, but nonetheless, I hear what they're saying. And so one thing we also tried to do is we tried to keep it positive. Like sometimes you go to DEI seminars and it's this bias and that bias, and we all need to be aware of those biases, but we didn't want to end on the negative. We wanted to end on the power, the positive, the empowerment. And so we the last session was about empowerment and was positive and what can we all do to make it better. And so that's, to me, was like two critical things: is buy-in from everybody, and two, like, make it positive, make it, give people tasks, give people things that they can do from a positive standpoint, to make the insolvency space or whatever, the judicial space we're talking about, the legal space, to make it more open and have opportunities for all. We're not talking about closing the door for anyone. We're talking about just opening the door and having opportunities for everyone.
Yeah, things like this can be absolutely joyful experiences. They can be inspiring and empowering. And yeah, I really agree that it's super important to remember that. Just looking to the future, is this something you plan on continuing through the
Oh, without a doubt, absolutely. The American College of Bankruptcy, is really wants to do this on a yearly basis, and, that's, the dreams. And so we're talking about year 2, year 3, year
Oh,
4, and
amazing.
we want to, make sure that we can include and impact, all the HBCU law schools, as well as then, others around the country. And so we're in the planning stages, to say, okay, I guess when I say planning stages, part of planning is looking at the last event and saying, what do we do right? Can we do better?
Mhm.
How can we take this? What will we do next year? What will we do the following year? So, we already had a committee meeting, about a week ago. It was just a couple of days after the event, to talk about next steps. So without a doubt, the insolvency space should be looking forward to. I don't know what it will be. It will be blank dreams next year. I'm not sure necessarily if it's Howard, but it's probably be one of the other HBCU or another university's, dreams, where they'll host it and we'll be able to live stream it to
Mhm.
other, venues as well.
Well, I'm looking forward to it too. I'm so excited to watch it grow. I think such an amazing start, and you should, and your all your colleagues and collaborators should feel so proud.
Well,
It's
thank you.
beautiful.
And like I said, it was truly they said takes a village. It was a village's
Right.
effort. And, while Lynn and I were kind of on the forefront, we could not have done it without with the steering committee and with all the panelists. And so, I want to shout out to all of them
Mhm.
because they were incredible. And also, one thing I forgot to mention, and we couldn't have done it without the sponsors. We reached out to law firms across the country, and so many stepped up because I mentioned that lunch. So, we were able to provide that lunch free. We were able to do a networking reception free. We were able to have these speakers come in from all around. And it was because many law firms around the country stepped up and said, yeah, we'd love to be a sponsor. We'll give you X. We'll do this, do that. And so kudos to the entire legal community for stepping up in this instance.
Absolutely. It's beautiful to witness how many people are willing to give what they can when, positive change can be made in the community. So thank you for highlight
Absolutely.
that. And thank you
Um,
for speaking with me today. And it was so wonderful to meet you and hear about dreams.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.